What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. In today's episode, I have Scott Harding from You Run Podcast, who is, well, you run everything. There's like all these subsidiaries of all these things. And we're going to be doing, I guess we'll call it like a mini series. I'm not really sure how many episodes we're going to do, but we have plenty to do if we decide to do a bunch. But we're going to be doing a series together on remakes, horror remakes.
Yeah.
Scott and I agree on at least this part that remakes are not a bad thing. And so when I wanted to do, like a remakes series, you were the first person I thought of. I was like, oh, I'm gonna reach out and ask, and because I knew you were like on board with remakes for the most part. So
yeah, I mean, not even the most part. All remakes are good, even the really bad ones.
Yeah,
that they've all got a place, and without them, the horror movies die.
That's true. Yeah, no, I agree. I give everything a chance, even the Poltergeist remake. Like I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance. Like I give all of them a chance. I try to go in like with a very open mind, and see what happens. So anyway, so this is our first episode of our remakes miniseries, and the first one we are going to be doing is the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street.
The universally hated remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
It's the perfect one to start.
This movie's just, I've spoken about this with loads of people, and it literally, I can't find anyone who's got anything good to say about it. It's so hated.
Yeah, I'm the one person.
I've got good things to say about it as well. It's got issues, big issues,
sure.
But
sure. Yeah, I think so. I went, first of all, I should probably start by saying that Nightmare on Elm Street is not something that is like very near and dear to me. I'm not super connected to that franchise in the way that a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street fans are, which tends to kind of change the way you look at like the newer versions of things or the remakes, or same thing with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans. Like a lot of them really liked the new one, and I'm not like a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. So, but I feel the same way. Kind of like I think it actually helped in this instant because I was able to like distance myself away from the original franchise and then the ones that I'd seen later. And then, when they did this one came out in 2010.
Yeah.
And when I first went to see it, I fairly confident I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, I did, definitely.
Yeah. And then
opening night for me.
yeah. It was one that I wanted to see in theaters because I thought that, the trailer looked really good. I was excited about the cast. Like, obviously it wasn't Robert Englund, but I was okay with that. Like, I was excited to see what they did with it. And then I left really liking it. And I agree. I think it definitely has some flaws, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I overall, as far as remakes go for such a big franchise that has like a lot of love, I thought it was not the worst remake. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, there's definitely worse ones out there. I mean, I went to see this, so A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite franchise by a long way.
Yeah.
So I went to watch this, and I was very, we'll see what we get. And I wasn't completely disappointed. There's some things in this that are excellent, and I think Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger is one of them. He is exceptional.
Yeah.
Where it falls down for me is the decisions they made with the script, particularly around taking Freddy. So Freddy it was implied that he was a paedophile, but it was never said. He was a child killer. Mm-hmm. And I think by them making the decision to openly say within the first 20 minutes that that's what he is, instantly turned all of the Nightmare fans, me included, because we all love Freddy Krueger. He's a great character. And when you take him that one step further, all of his comedy or the comedic elements that he's got, they don't land anymore. He's not funny anymore. It's just, that was the one thing that I didn't like.
Yeah. I think I hadn't really thought about it like that. I mean, obviously I've seen all of the others, but I had not really thought about that one step. Because for me, the thing that took me in and out of it was the back and forth innocent or not, because I wasn't sure with it being a remake, like what direction that was going to go in. Like they
Yeah.
had me almost completely convinced most of the movie that they were really trying to paint him as this like innocent thing. And I was like, are they really going to do that? No way. Like, and it took, until you get way closer to the end of the movie before it's like, obviously like that's not what they did. But that was the part that I think was hard for me. Like that was a little bit of a disconnect for me. I don't know, like, I had just not really thought about the pedophile thing. I think for me, he's scary enough without that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I liked that this was a scary Freddy as opposed to a funny one. I mean, he's got these like one-liners that just like, ooh, like the one about like, the brain and how he's like, we still have, I think it's like 7 minutes left to play. And
Yeah.
he's like, just me. And like, he has these lines that I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
it's like
He's definitely really, really creepy. And
yeah,
I loved the fact they played with the fact that he was innocent. I
yeah,
think had
he
they
did.
taken it that route and followed through with it, I think we probably would have got a sequel.
Uh,
I think that would have been enough to make everyone go, oh, wow, okay, this is completely different. Let's see
I see.
what
Yeah.
they can do with it now.
Yeah.
This, without a doubt, has got the strongest opening dream sequence of any movie in the franchise. The opening scene in the diner is spectacular.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Kellen Lutz, coming out of his Twilight days. I was very pleasantly surprised. Not that I doubted him per se, like but I was very interested to see because the only experience of him that I had was his character Emmett in Twilight. So going into this with like, oh, that's like this is a whole new thing now, and I knew some of the other characters and or the other actors and actresses that were in it that I already really liked, and I was excited about the new Frey. I was like, let's see what Kellen Lutz. Of course, I didn't know he was going to die in the first
Yeah.
few minutes of the movie. But having said that, he acted the hell out of his scene. Like he did a great job. I really
Yeah.
like that scene as well, where he's going through the kitchen and there's all these like, I don't know, like that atmosphere, the colors, like all of that was really well done.
Yeah, that side of it, I think they got right. So the
Yeah.
aesthetic of the movie and all the
Yeah.
deep reds and the deep greens that everyone loved from the original
Sure.
franchise, they're unique to a Nightmare franchise.
Right.
They
Yeah.
got that so spot on.
Yeah.
And I think Freddy looks good as well. He looks different, but it's not Robert Englund. It doesn't matter who you put in the mask, they're not going to look like
It's
Robert
not going to be the
Englund.
same. Sure.
And I understand Robert Englund owns that role more than anyone else ever
Sure.
can and ever will. But
Yeah.
as fans of A Nightmare on Elm Street, we need to accept now that the man's nearly 80. He's done. He's not doing it again. We need to get on board with someone else. Otherwise, the franchise dies. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's true. And he's funny because like when you watch like and he's done other horror things other than Freddy that he's phenomenal. Like I love everything I've ever seen him in. But I think like it's funny listening to him talk about the fact that he's perfectly okay with it too. Like he's very good with the concept of like someone else kind of taking over and doing like, and I don't know, it may have been a conversation you and I had when we talked about your influential. I can't remember if it was us or not, but talking about like what you would like to see like in the next one. I think we talked about that a little bit, but
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So like
needs to be rebooted again.
Yeah.
The franchise can't die. And I know that the Craven estate are taking scripts now. There's one there that Elijah Wood has written. And he wants to bring Robert Englund back, but as a voice cameo.
Okay.
But only at the beginning, but effectively playing the spirit of Freddy. But that's all that's been leaked about that. I don't mind what they do as long as they treat it right. I think this remake missed so many key points that I wanted. That I think that's what turned it. I mean, at the box office, this was hugely successful. It was a smash hit.
Yeah.
But then they got the response from the fans afterwards. Went, oh, maybe we won't make a second one.
Yeah, it kind of died afterwards. Yeah. I think like because I think one of the things, another time that we've talked about this too, was like thinking about what it would be like to have Robert Englund as a cameo, even if not like as the full thing. Like I'm good with. I don't think he needs to come back as Freddy. I think, like
No.
you said, like he's not even age aside. Like that time has passed. Like we're through that. But I would actually love to see him as a cameo. Like even if it was just to give it to someone else or whatever the case may be. Like I think that little bit of like familiarity with that character would be like helpful to people who are fans, just to like
Yeah.
maybe help get them a little more on board with the concept of it being redone and it being someone else. So
Yeah, I mean, bring him on board, make him a local historian who's just moved to the area. He's investigating crimes and he's the one who discovers Freddy. Make him the first kill. Let Freddy kill the old Freddy.
oh, that would be cool.
What a great way to pass the torch. Have the
That would
new
be
Freddy
cool.
kill the old one.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Did you send in a script? You're like, here's my thoughts.
I've got a video coming in about a weekish, something like that, a couple of weeks on YouTube,
Yeah.
where I recast it and I give my script idea.
Ooh,
So,
okay, that's cool.
so yeah, I've got a very detailed idea of what I want them to do. There's so many ways. The thing is, with A Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not as restricted. If you've got Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or even Scream, you're
Yeah.
so restricted on where you can take it
Sure,
because
that's true.
it's in a dream world. You can take it anywhere you want. You can go to any location. You can have any setup. You can have a female Freddy beat someone to death with a lollipop, and it still works.
Yeah, there's not really a limit of being far fetched because it is in a non-existent reality, like a for the most part. But yeah, that's true because you've talked about the concept of a female Freddy before too.
Yeah, I would love a female Freddy. I'd love Candice King
Yeah,
to be Freddy. I think she would be exceptionally good as a Freddy,
yeah,
and I think making Freddy a female gives a whole new angle to how he hunts or how she would hunt in the dreams.
yeah,
Because Freddy is very, very predatory, and I think by changing the dynamic and making Freddy a female, it then goes from being a predator to almost setting a trap and luring people in and then killing them.
that's true.
You change it, instead of it being an evil, nasty killer who's hunting people down, it seems very friendly on the surface, which most dreams do. When you start off in a dream, it doesn't go
Yeah,
instantly bad. It's quite nice, and then it turns.
yeah, that definitely adds a lot of layers to it. It wouldn't be so one-dimensional if they did it that way. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That would be I'm definitely open to another one. I think that with what was written for the 2010 remake, I think that the people who were in the film, I think they did the best that they were able to with what material they were given.
Yeah.
I had a couple of kills that I liked. The ones that were, of course, supposed to be like from the other, they're kind of supposed to be like the same kills from the other, but they're, just a little different, these things that happen. But I think like I will say this though, like I don't know that I was as invested in this Nancy. Like there was just like I wasn't as like connected to the people as I felt like I was in the original. And I don't really know why I feel that way. It's just I just didn't like
No, I didn't
I didn't feel
either.
connected.
I think it's down to the fact that the original spends quite a bit of time at the beginning building those characters. I mean,
True.
the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's only in it for 12 minutes.
That's true. No, you're right. Yeah.
So you've got an entire hour and 15 minutes with no Freddy, where all
That's
they're doing
true.
is building these characters. In this, Freddy is in the opening scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it took away that time you had to bond with the characters. And a lot of remakes fall into this trap. They go, everyone knows exactly what this is, so let's just
They don't
dive
spend
straight
time
in.
on it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is the quick jumps between two people. So you meet somebody, they die. You meet somebody, they die. You meet somebody, they die until we're down to our final two,
Yeah.
like in the last little bit of the movie. So yeah, that's a really good point too. Is it did spend a lot more time in the original getting you invested in what was going on outside of just the dream sequences and the stuff with Freddy. That's true. And I think the jumping around didn't help either. I mean, I like the different stories. Like I was fine with like seeing these different things happen to these different people, but I think the jumps made the disconnect even bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if they'd have handled this in a way where they focused less on Freddy and more on the characters. I think when Freddy come in, because he looks great and he
Yeah.
is a fantastic actor and he
Yeah.
plays Freddy really well.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
think they just overexposed us too early to it, which is why everyone,
Mm.
the more they exposed us to it, the more Nightmare fans, because we're bad Nightmare fans at going, it must be Robert Englund. It has to be Robert Englund.
Right.
And because they overexposed us to this new Freddy,
Yeah.
it gave fans too much time to go, oh, well, Robert would have done it like this. Oh, he would have done it like that.
That's a fair
Where
point.
if they'd have kept it short and he was only in it for 12 minutes or even 15 minutes at the end, they wouldn't have had all that time to start pulling it apart and dissecting it, because all they're doing is learning about the new characters. And then Freddy comes in at the end, massacres everyone, credits roll, we get a Nightmare 2 remake, which I would love to see.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And if they had showed him less, then like you said, it would have added to the background stuff with the other people for you to be able to. And the other thing is too, is there are absolutely people that went and saw this that are not necessarily Nightmare fans that didn't know, I'm sure there were people that saw this without seeing the original or really knowing the original, maybe knowing what it was, but not having seen it or having seen the entire franchise or whatever. And I think that that's a disservice when you make a remake. You want to be able to pull in the people who love the original, but people who maybe didn't see the original or don't know anything about the original. You want to make it bigger. You want to grow it out. And you can't do that if you approach it like you mentioned, where it's like, well, everyone just knows. So we'll just truck it right along. We'll throw in a ton of this character that everybody loves. But then you're not allowing anyone new to get connected to the franchise in any way because they don't understand. And by the time you've seen him so many times, it's like this is a common thing that frustrates me across the board with all kinds of horror movies is that you become desensitized. He has like no power anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
His initial appearance in that opening scene, everyone went, "Oh shit, he's a nasty Freddy."
Mm-hmm.
And then it's about 6 minutes. It's like, oh, he's back. And then it's another 10 minutes. Oh, he's back again.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I agree.
The thing is with remakes, though, the main point of a remake is obviously to drag in the original fan base. That's where they want to get their money there, but they want new fans as well.
Sure.
And this is where I think remakes are great, because this is a bad remake. Not many people like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people had not seen A Nightmare on Elm Street or didn't know a lot about it, went and watched this and went, oh, that's not very good. Why on earth did they remake the original? And then went and downloaded the original, watched the original, but actually this is great, and then watched the whole franchise. How many new fans did the Nightmare franchise get because of this remake?
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I think you said this before about something else, but it's like even bad things like get you to like a better, like people like not liking you or you making people mad on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. They share your stuff. It gets seen. Like it's the same thing. It's like, that's true. That's a really good point. Yeah.
It's my favorite game on TikTok. Stitch a video, upset someone, and then let the comments explode and it goes everywhere. And the thing is, if you don't take stuff like that personally, it's great, because if you say something controversial, if you go on there and go, Robert Englund's a terrible Freddy, whether you believe it or not, your comment section will go mental. Exactly. And if you're strong-willed enough to take that and then go through and reply to all of those comments going, no, you're wrong, I don't care what you say, Jackie L. Haley's better, that video will be huge.
That's true.
It's just having the balls to follow it through. I've not done that one yet. Maybe I will.
Maybe one day. That's so true. Yeah, no, I think so too. I do like this one. I didn't think it's not by any stretch my favorite remake of all time, but I think it definitely had some small things that if they had done them differently, it would have made a world of difference. It really would have. These are not like the things that probably could have been changed that would have made it way better are not like these crazy outlandish things. It's very simple storytelling things, very simple things that they could have done that would have just really made it like way better. And I really did like what is his name? Jackie. He's got
Jackie L. Haley.
That's right. I like him in general. I think he's a really good actor. He's I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio. Anyway,
another amazing film.
Yeah, he's great. Like I really liked him. I liked the voice. Like I said, I loved the things that he says. But I have to agree when I think about it. He has seen way too much.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that, honestly, with 3 or 4 small script choice changes, this would have completely changed how it was viewed, and I think would have spawned a Dream Warriors, a Dream Master. It would have carried on. It was
Yeah.
just those few, and they're tiny, minute decisions, like making him a paedophile instead of making him a child killer, overexposing him early on,
Mhm.
um, mimicking too much of the original, too close to the original, and not being unique enough. But they're all minor changes that wouldn't take. You could probably sort all of those out in editing after you'd filmed it.
That's true. No,
Um,
that's
and,
true.
and I think if they'd done that, I think it would have been a hit. It's
Yeah.
the biggest stumbling block for rebooting this franchise when they done it in 2010, and if they ever do it again, is Robert Englund. I hate to say it. He owns the role so much in the hearts of fans that no one can take that and will be as universally accepted and loved. You'll always get someone who goes, "He's not as good as
It's
Robert
not
Englund."
him. And
Exactly.
you don't really have that with these other franchises because I mean, especially like Friday the 13th and Halloween, like it's just a mask and no voice. So there's no connection in that way. And then Freddy went from being this like darker, like not that he's not dark when he's funny, but he became comedic and it became a thing where you weren't he wasn't as unsettling in the same ways anymore. And that's when all like you just grow to love him in a very different way as the franchise goes on. And you
Yeah.
just don't get that with the other ones. Like it's just not the same.
No, I think a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is one of the few that when you get to things like a Nightmare 3 and Nightmare 4,
Mm-hmm.
there's times where you're actually rooting for Freddy. And
Yes.
I don't think there's, especially in Nightmare 4, there's pretty much the whole
Yeah.
movie I was rooting for Freddy. I wanted him to
Yeah.
kill them all. But you don't
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
At no point are you going, "Go on, Jason. Yeah, go on, hunt him down." Because he's the bad guy. But Freddy was kind of this, he almost become an anti hero.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. I think my only thing that changed over time with the other two, like Michael and Jason, is once I hit my 30s, I kind of like didn't really care for teenagers anymore. So I kind of was like not as upset about them being slaughtered. But at least with Freddie, it was like in more unique ways.
Yeah, that's definitely an age thing because I've got to an age now where I sympathise with Jason. Where it's like, look, they've turned up at your house, they're making loads of fucking noise, they're
Just
doing things that you shouldn't, you don't want to just get rid of them, kick them out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hit that about 29. I
Yeah,
was like, yeah. Yeah, I like this one. I think this is a good one and a good one to start on because I know that you have love for this franchise and and this was one that like I said, I did like.
yeah,
If you
I
had to
liked
rate
it.
this one, you normally do out of 5, right?
I know out of 10 for me
You
normally.
do out of 10. Oh,
Yeah,
Mark does 5. That's right.
yeah.
If what do you give this out of 10?
It's a 7.
Yeah?
It's not a
I
bad
didn't expect
movie.
you to say a 7.
Yeah, it's not a bad film. It's well
Yeah.
made. The acting quality is good. The kills are
Yeah.
good. It's just a couple of little script choices, and this
Yeah.
could have been a 9 or a 10. It's just, yeah, it's not a bad film. It's not a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
That's true. I also have a 7 out of 10 for this one as well. That's why I think I expected yours to be lower. I
Uh,
couldn't remember.
I think it's phenomenal. This is probably the most we've ever agreed.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Won't last long.
Yeah. I did like this one. And I am definitely on board with remakes. If they whatever they decide to do with this, whoever wins out, if Elijah gets it and he does a movie, then I'll see it. Like I'm open to seeing it and seeing what they do. And hopefully, to your point about like doing things differently, I think there's always that weird line of like we can like in general, people we complain about like if it's solely based on nostalgia, and or if it's so new there's no source material, and those are both very valid arguments. No matter what you're talking about, it's a very hard line to toe, but there has to be, for me at least, there needs to be a little bit of both. There has to be some nods or it's not a remake, but it has to be something new or it's insulting because it's like the exact same thing all over again. And I think that it's a hard line to walk. It has to be both, but it has to be balanced. It can't be too so different that we don't recognize it, and so much of the old that we've already seen it, you know.
Yeah, and I hate beat for beat remakes. Someone who just takes the old movie, carbon copies it with a new cast. Like, why? What was the
What
point
was the
in that?
point of that? Could have just left it alone and spent your time doing something else.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. Cool. Well, that's my thoughts on
Yeah. That's that then.
And done. I didn't do any tangents. I'm super proud of myself. I just have to say that. I wanted to so many times, but I didn't.
Yeah, you kept it to a solid 40 minutes.
40 minutes. It hasn't been 40 minutes.
Is it not?
No, 26 minutes.
Oh, 26. Oh, that's good. Half an hour.
See, good for me, right? Yeah. That's why I'm patting myself on the back.
Yeah.
Because normally at this point, when the episode is ending, we're at an hour and a half.
And the stupid thing is, had you gone off on tangents, I was stopping myself as well, because I could have gone off and recast the entire thing and done the whole thing now.
Good for us. Gold star.
Yeah, well done us.
Yeah, so that's our first episode of Remakes. And I think we know, we have, like I said, we have a list. We already know what one we're doing next, but I'm not going to tell you. So to come back and see. But yeah, these will be coming out periodically. I don't know yet. We'll figure all of that out after the fact.
We'll work it out. We'll record a couple and then work out when we record some more.
Figure it out. Yep. So thank you guys so much for watching. Scott and I'll be back soon with another episode of Remakes. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you later.